All right, what's going on, everybody? Derek, can you hear me? How's the audio? Greetings, Keith. You guys, how's our audio looking? Or how's our audio sounding? Do we sound good? Perfect. All right. Awesome. So you guys requested that I put the comments in the comment box, and there they are, right? So all the questions are going to be visible for future purposes. All right, so this is Bitmex testnet, and if you're in the US, right? Oh, just a disclaimer, right? This is very high risk trading. It's usually not available for US citizens. That's why we're on the testnet. And what you're able to do here is short and long Bitcoin. And it's a very handy thing to do when we're in a correction. And I'll go over the display settings and how I like mine whenever I am actually, you know, doing this. So for starters, I really don't like the original layout. I don't like seeing the orders being, you know, being displayed. I don't like seeing what's going on with that. So we're just gonna move that down and out of the way, and then I'm gonna make this bigger just so I can read my chart. That's where the juicy stuff is. And then the order book, I'll actually make that smaller, bring it down, move this over, and there we go. So this is going to be my ideal testnet type of setup. Let me shrink this just a little. Oh, frustrating. Anyways, so here you're gonna see the order book and what's in the order book. You can actually stretch this down quite a bit and see what's further up. I wouldn't pay too much attention to the order book. This only represents the meantime. I've seen these orders right here, like that 1.7 million. I've seen that stay there and then just vanish, right? So we're basically gonna trade this mainly off divergences, and let's go like RSI, and let's do a stochastic. All right, so this is what my ideal Bitmex setup looks like. And just dive into somewhat of how to use Bitmex, right? Over on this side, right, this is going to be where we place the orders. One contract is the equivalent of $1 US, and then this is where we apply leverage, right? So let's say I wanted to open a $5,000 position on leverage. What I would do is I'd go here and I'd put in 5,000. And what the leverage does, the leverage is actually the discount level we're getting on the purchase or on the sell order. And what that does is, instead of paying $5,000 for a $5,000 position, if we leverage that position at 25x, we're paying $5,000 divided by 25 in BTC values for that position. And what that does is, let's say I like to leverage at 25x, right? So when I'm doing that, let's say I open a position at 25x, every time the chart makes 1% gain or 1% loss, I'm earning 25% on the amount of equity I have in there. And that's what leverage does. So if it's a 5x leverage position, it's going to do the same thing. So a 5x leverage position at 1% gain would be 5% on equity. Does that make sense, guys, as far as the leverage and equity gain? Awesome. As for the nitty-gritty and how to actually work this platform, well, you know, this is actually the testnet chart. It's not going to reflect like the real chart, but it's going to be pretty close. If you guys have been following our our Bitmex long shorts from I guess last weekend from the correction, we did pretty well. I don't know why it's flattening. Let's do a log. it's not the same chart. We've got some amazing charts, and what we actually do whenever we're doing this, we're tracking this thing real time. We're looking for divergences, and I made 185% on a short, and then I went long for like another 80-90%, and then went back short again for another 185%, and now I'm back long from 9,400, and then I averaged up as BTC started going up, because I believe this correction is over. So what this allows us to do, what allows me to do, is to really leverage and gain exponential gains and when market conditions are not doing much. So when alts are just stuck in channels, I'm not seeing big gains on alts, and when we're in corrections, right? So when Bitcoin is actually losing USD values, getting on Bitmex and opening a short position on a correction is going to really increase my equity and make me perform really well in a declining market. And that's why we're in a market. We're in a market to extract value, so I like to take advantage of every opportunity presented. So if it's a big short, you know, long term, I'm long on BTC, but if it's coming down on USD values, I wanna make some gains. I wanna make some BTC gains, because when it turns back around and it goes back up, Shotgun Winks made 200% on one trade on a long over here. He would have made more if he held his position. And so we're trading this on divergences. It's very risky. Let's go ahead and open a position so we can talk about liquidation price. So Cody, if you open a 5,000 USD position on 10x, you're only staking $500. And your return is going to be, let's say the chart makes 1%, you're going to get 10% on that $500, not 10% on that $5,000. Does that answer your question? As for perpetual contracts, what a perpetual contract is, it's like an open contract that you can close whenever you like, and it's a swap for BTC. So what happens is whenever I withdraw XBT into a BTC wallet, they actually batch process the withdrawals because they convert it to actual BTC. So that's what a perpetual contract is. Keith, does that answer your question? So these are settled in XBT, but 0.1 XBT is the equivalent of 0.1 BTC. It is perpetual. They do have 18-hour, sorry, they do have like 1 month futures, but I don't like messing with those. This thing's like having an open or a long or a short position that we can close at any time, and that's what I like. So it's going to be hard to like be able to achieve these like exponential gains here on when the chart's just kind of doing this. Let's say I wanted to open a long position with $5,000 at 10x leverage. If I click buy long, what it's going to do is going to tell me what I'm paying for this. So for a 0.467 BTC position, I'm paying 0.04 XBT, right? So that would be that $500 value. It gives you your available balance, position size after execution, market price. This is the market price that I'm buying that $5,000 contract for. And then the estimated liquidation price. What liquidation does, since this isn't a typical exchange and we're margin trading on here, what that would do is that's where that position would get completely liquidated. There is no margin call. They won't call your phone. They won't send you an email. It's just pure liquidation. And this is why this is high risk, high reward, because it is essentially all or nothing. That being said, we're on the test net, so nothing gained, nothing lost. This is just a way to try out this platform, right? So let's click buy and see what happens. Actually, I'm not going to do that just yet, right? So if if I hypothetically, you know, if I have 0.1 BTC and I'm looking to do some leverage positions, I'm never going to utilize half a balance on leverage. What I would do is I would utilize 10% of it, right? So 0.1 BTC, since this is a small testnet account, we're going to do $1,000 in contracts at 25x, and now I'm paying 0.094 for a 0.09 XBT position. And I'll talk about why I employ that strategy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click buy on 10x. It's going to submit the order. Oh, this was a limit order. Okay, and this might not go through, right? So just like any exchange, we've got limit orders, market orders, and stops. So I don't like limit orders because when I want to enter a position, now I want to enter it now. The only time I would place a market order is let's say right here in the bottom of that correction, I had originally posted that I think bottom's going to be around 9,400, and that's when I would adjust that order and bring it down to that 9,400 range, right? And so we see this gain up. I'm like, well, if BTC dips back down to 94, I want to add to my position. I want to increase my contract size. So that's when I would use a limit order. I wouldn't use a limit order to enter now. If I wanted to enter the chart now, instead of a limit order, I would go do a market order. I'd say buy market order at 10x leverage, and even do 25. The difference between a 10 and a 25 and a 5x and a 3x, the higher our leverage, the higher the liquidation price is going to be. So when somebody enters at 100x leverage, the liquidation price is going to be very different than entering at 25x. So let's see the difference here. So if I was to do a 50x leverage long and hit buy, my liquidation price would be $10,681, and my entry would be 10,702. So I have a very low threshold before I get liquidated. And here we go. I would, this would be a very risky maneuver. I'd be very high, likely to get liquidated. Instead, if we go to 25x, it's 10,400. At 10x, 98.99. 5x, 9,600, right? Or no, sorry, $9,069. 3x, 8,000. And what that's going to do at the same time, that's changing how much I'm paying for that position. So these are the two things you want to keep an eye on: the cost at 3x and the liquidation price. So let's go back to 25x, and so I'd pay 0.0038 BTC for a 0.1 BTC position. Liquidation price would be at 10,400. So let's just go ahead and pull the trigger on it, and bam. So now we have a contract open. Okay, before I move forward, I want to answer some of these questions. Chris, did you miss liquidation price, or do you want me to explain it a little better than that? Liquidation price is where that position would completely be forfeit. The exchange would take that position. It's not a stop loss, it is a liquidation. It's like a margin call, but there's no covering. There is Bitmex taking that position. So whatever I have here on margin, if that position was to get liquidated, I would lose everything in that position. Now, Cody, how can you change leverage on an open contract? Right, right here on an open contract. So I have this contract. It's almost like it's at a 22% loss because I'm at a 25x leverage. Right, this isn't a great time to enter anyway. It's why we're on testnet. What I would do if I wanted to increase margin, I would move this over to 50x. I'd probably get liquidated right here, or leverage. And so another thing we can do with Bitmex, let's say this position is getting close to getting liquidated. one can increase their margin. So if I was to add 0.05 margin, that would bring my liquidation down to 6,800. So adding margin would essentially decrease the liquidation price. So I will not get liquidated till 6,800. But that's kind of ridiculous on this position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to remove this margin. And these things can be done while the play is open, as long as one is not at a big loss. So let's go back to 0.491, remove margin, and bam. So liquidation price is back up at that 10,300 range. As for increasing margin on an open position or decreasing it, all one has to do is move up to 50x. And lick price now is 10,500, right? 50x margin. And what happens is that would free up my capital. So if I entered at 25x, if I put $1,000 in at 25x, and I move it up to 50x, what happens is whatever equity one used to open this position. So if I use $500 or $1,000 to open this position at 25x, and I bump my liquidation up to my leverage up to 50x, what that would do is that would put my XBT back up here. So if I entered at 9,400 at 25x leverage and the chart made 100% or 10% on the chart, at 25x, 250%, what I could do then is I could increase my leverage to 50x and withdraw my BTC from that position, so I can add to my position or do whatever. I can go and short another chart with it, or I can put it back in my exchange account or back on my Trezor. What all that does is it frees up capital, and it increases the liquidation price. What do you need to enter for a decreasing margin? Can you ask that question a little differently, Cody? I can't wrap my head around it. Right, that is how much margin I currently have in this play. How much value I currently have in this play. If I wanted to lower my liquidation price, I would go to here and I would add margin to my play. So I have 0.0971. I could do 0.01 to kind of match that position size. I would add margin, and now liquidation price is $9,572. Yes, to increase margin, one would need available balance to add to that position. This is on a long and on a short. This works the same way on longs and shorts. Keith, the margins for points or positions? Awesome. Okay. And so one of the reasons I entered a small position right now, right? So this is testnet. I had 0.1 XBT, and I didn't use the whole 0.1. I used 10% of it. Is what that's going to allow me to do in case this chart starts tracing back down. Instead of getting liquidated and running out of margin, what that allows me to do, let's kind of look at it backwards. Let's say we started here, and then the chart is kind of doing this. What I would do is next time I see it go into oversold, or it's kind of sketchy, you know, the way it's looking now, but let's say the chart was taking a dip, I'd be able to average down, put another buy order here, and let's say it averaged down again, put another buy order there, and what that's going to do is it's going to cost average, it's like dollar cost averaging, and I'd be buying BTC at cheaper, and at the same time increasing my position and reducing my liquidation price on a long. So if the chart starts going against me and I have this small position that's open, I can increase it because I do have free XBT, instead of just wait for the liquidation and lose everything and kind of be stuck in, oh man, I wish I didn't open that big of a position earlier. Same thing on a short, right? When I started shorting at like, was this 12K? I called the short up here when I saw the fractals, and I posted those. I said, hey, I'm setting up the short play. So I started shorting here, and on the real Bitmex chart, there was actually a rising wedge happening right there. And what I had to do is I knew it was a rising wedge. It wasn't like it was a bull trap is what it was. And I shorted there, and this was actually a rising wedge on the other chart with divergence on it. So what I did is I increased my position and shorted there again. This is annoying. Right? And based on my fractal, I had posted that I think true bottom's at 9,200. And so what I did is I was waiting for that to be my target. And this is why we keep these things updated in the Bitmex short long, because these aren't positions. I actually got no sleep that whole weekend just to capitalize on these gains. But then again, my Bitmex account like 5x'd within 4 or 5 days. So that was pretty awesome. And it was absolutely worth it. And so we had 3 tests of this price level, and it was actually like up here. That was the first one. This chart's a little skewed. I'll pull up the real XBT chart on TradingView once I'm done, or on Coinigy, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. And then I opened another short on this rising wedge. And that's because I had confidence in the play. I knew that I found like a really good finding and I could capitalize on it. And then the rising wedge, sorry, the falling wedge kind of just came to a halt, and there's a falling wedge here. And this is what the wedge looked like on the real chart, right? And as soon as we broke out of that falling wedge, a falling wedge is a bullish reversal. So when we broke out of it, I knew there was going to be a retest. Closed the first short here and opened a long and shorted back again up here. So I rode this short long. I did a short and then a long and then another short all the way down to my target. Got out at my target, waited for the first retest, second retest, and rode it back up. No, I added to the short. I did not open new shorts. The only time I would close a short is to go long. And when I see divergence. Cody, it is absolutely crucial to have free assets available and to be 100% confident in the play. I know you were asking yesterday about, shorting Classic at some point, and I said it's not ready yet, and I said don't go all in, don't divide over multiple accounts, just build that position up. When you open a short what was your sell price? When I opened my first short, I shorted around 11 and 10.8, and then I added at 10.7, and once again at 101, and closed for a long. So I actually sold at 3 different prices, and what it does is it's gonna dollar cost average. So as I'm averaging my position down on these shorts, what's happening is my liquidation price is coming down with my average, but what's also happening is my leverage position's increasing. Now, you know, shorting down here would be a higher risk, but I'd already accumulated over 100% on these 2 shorts, and I knew this was just a bull trap because it was a rising wedge, and I shorted it again. Does that answer your question, Keith? Awesome. So as for closing these positions, I've been doing a market close. It's gonna be actually like where my face is, so I'm just gonna move this over. And you know, I've been market closing my positions right there. If I wanted to close my position now at market price, there's a P&L, an unrealized P&L, and they're both really tricky. But it'll essentially show you how much you've gained or lost in that position. One thing is we can't open a short and a long at the same time, so it's kind of a good thing, right? Because then at that point you don't know you don't know which way you're betting. You're kind of just gambling, thinking it's gonna do either, and you're gonna make a gain regardless. You can close one or the other. So it's really good to have a clear indication of what we think is going to happen with a chart before going in on one of these. Let's say somebody was to short right here. Oh, it's going to come back down, and they don't pay attention to the rising wedge, and they do it on too much leverage. When the chart goes back up, and on a bull trap, even though it wasn't done being bearish, it just entered an upwards channel for a while, which is what we call a bull trap. On that bull trap, what would happen is they could easily get liquidated if they don't have more margin, or not able to dollar cost average on the way up. So the worst thing one can do is go all in, or go 50% in, or even 40% in right off the bat. The best thing to do is to really pay attention to the chart and to our findings, and assess the risk and say, okay, I'm gonna go in with you know, a small position and kind of work my way around the chart and dollar cost average. And this is an all or nothing type of situation, so it's a very high risk. You guys have any questions? You can exit at any time, right? But if the chart starts going the wrong way, you can absolutely exit before lick by doing a market close, and I'll show you that. So you could come on here and click market close, and it would close that position, and it would close it at market price. Cody, it's not a power hour. I'm just going over Bitmex. You can absolutely use limits, right? And that's when we'd go in that limit tab. We can do a stop limit. So if we have a target, and let's say our target was 92, you might want to get out before that target, because we actually didn't really hit 92. I had to close my short at 93.60. So having to close a short at 93.60 I was glued to my screen for days. But what one would do, we could say either a stop limit or a trailing stop or a take profit limit. So I have this long position. I want to take profit on it. Trigger price, let's make it 11,000. Oh. And the limit price I want to sell at, it's going to sell at the, you know, at the next price in the book. It's not going to sell at that price. Let's just call it 10,995. And that would be my take profit sell. So I can do that. Sell 1,000 contracts at 10,995, trigger price 11,000 and above. And if I do that, am I still at 50x? I am still at 50x. I might get liquidated soon. Nope, my lick price is 95, so never mind. So now I actually have that sell target set. Does that answer your question, Cody? Or Keith? One good resource is this bot that I've been using. It's the Bitmex Rect bot on Twitter, and this might seem silly, right? But somebody coded this bot to actually pull up the liquidations. So it doesn't just do the BTC ones, but anything that's XBT USD is a BTC liquidation. So you're seeing, you know, a short position of 650. Here there's a liquidated long at 324,000. So it's really important to enter on a true price shift at the end of a channel or at the beginning of a channel instead of trying to scalp here. Like these guys, they go in on a high leverage thinking they can scalp the chart for 2-3% on a $100,000 position, but what happens? They get burnt. It's really dangerous to Bitmex short long if we're not in a true fib channel, if we're not in a real correction. Entering a short here thinking, oh, it's going to dip back down without looking out for divergences and stuff, without having a real technical understanding of what in the world is going on is very risky. And yeah, so that's something we really want to pay attention to. So how does the bot work help? That's not a trading bot, it's a liquidation price bot, right? So what that bot's going to do, it's going to let us know who's getting wrecked. Wrecked means who's getting liquidated at what price point. So if we see a lot of liquidated longs or a lot of liquidated shorts, it's just letting us know that it's not something we can use to trade. It's just something to help us gauge market sentiment and let us know what in the world is going on. You want me to go back to that Twitter bot? Derek, we cannot use Coinigy API for Bitmex because Coinigy does not have a leverage type of lever, right? So on Bitmex, we can actually leverage our positions. We've got this, and Coinigy doesn't have that feature, so you can't trade it. You can just look at their charts. What level of ability and confidence in TA would you recommend to use Bitmex? So, Zero and I are pretty confident in our capabilities. We've also got OX and Coda. and quite a few other analysts that are really TA strong that have done pretty well. I'm actually gonna open up our Discord real quick and just kind of show some things that we've announced. It's gonna be in the Bitmex short long. So what I did is I on our Discord, man, it's that thing's in the way. So right here, I actually did the Bitmex discussion and then short long. This is going to be where we're gonna post a finding instead of it being lost in the chat. So I'm gonna go back to our Bitmex short long and go just kind of all the way up. So the idea is we're going to be tracking BTC in real time and be able to play those key levels, right? So this is, hey gang, you know, I'm working on a pitch fan strategy, not this one. So this is where I called that first short, right? And I called this thing on a pitch fan, which is pretty crazy because, you know, I saw a couple of fractals here and I just knew we were going to get a correction back down to the median, and the median was at 9,200. So that's why we opened our first short. So I opened my first short there, and then we went long short on the retests. Here it is dropping. Second short. So we're trying to keep this thing updated at all times. So the ability to enter at the right channel. Here we're seeing like the Fib corrections. We're seeing the Fib corrections, and we're looking for Fibonacci levels to enter and exit trades instead of just doing it because we think it's a good short. We're looking at Fib levels, we're looking at divergences, and we're looking to stay out of the tricky channels, right? So I think I announced my first short here. Shorted down, went long. This was the bull trap. Second short here. This was the rising wedge, and this was my like 9,200 bottom. Well, I never hit 92, but I ended up closing at 93.60, which was a really great play. You guys have any more questions on Bitmex? So Keith, there's that take limit target, right? You know, I can move it up at any time, just like betting on Coinager, I can move it down. And it's gonna tell you order amended. Alright guys, if you have questions, hit me with them now. You like ETC 7-day or staying away from futures of all kinds? I do have ETC 7-day futures open. One thing we have to be careful about with Ether Classic is Market Maker. When I was in LA a couple weeks ago, Market Maker did me really bad. They actually, what's going on with this chart? There was actually a really steep probing wick. I can probably pick it up on the Trading View real chart. Let me go back to it. Or Coinagy. There was this massive wick down, right? And that liquidated a lot of people. The order book actually went blank on that future. So on these like Ether Classic futures, it's good to go in on a bounce point and make sure to have quite a bit of free leverage to do that, or free margin, so you don't get liquidated. It's pretty risky at this point. We want to, because it's in the middle of a channel, right? If it decides to dip back down to 31 before it runs up, it could be a really dangerous play. Now I'm seeing somewhat of a fractal here. We see these breakouts happening and a little bit of a bull flag forming. But so these short longs are going to be for like the more TA advanced guys, I'd say, or the ones that are really going to follow the Bitmex long short findings. It's a very high risk scenario. We can see Bitmex futures on Coinigy, but we cannot trade them. There's no leverage options, or there's no way to increase leverage or change your leverage on Coinigy. I'm pretty sure you can even like link your APIs to track your account, but I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I would not do that. Good for tools, absolutely. Cody, you can't. That's a really bad way to like try to jump the gun on a trade. We can't trade what we can't see on a chart, right? So if Ether Classic decides to uphold its value after the snapshot, and one decides to short it right now, well, guess what? That short might not pan out. But if we see a major divergence, if we see a clear indication that's gonna head right back down, then that would be a decent time to go in short. This is the actual wick I was talking about on the Ether Classic futures. You guys see that? Classic dropped from 34 all the way down to 26. Whoever had made that short happen, they cleared the entire book. They liquidated everybody. And had I not been there, we're actually like sitting down eating lunch in LA at the condo, and I'm sitting there and I saw it dipping, and I was like, man, I gotta close out. This is gonna liquidate everybody. And then I looked in the order book and there was absolutely nothing. Yeah. So Cody, that's what I'm saying. If you don't see it on the chart and market maker decides to do this on the way up, and they wake everybody up because they know people are gonna jump the gun for a short. Shorts and longs are only to be played once we have confirmation, and it's best to get out at the next divergence and open a long or open a reversed position and play the true divergences between the fib channels, or really just wait for a big correction. So if somebody wanted to short BTC, had I not been at the Dallas conference, right, this was a major rising wedge up here, right? So one could have shorted it, and if we were to fib it, let's do like a short-term fib down to that 61.8 over here, and we were to measure the actual drop, the price range. So one can pull out 20% on a really well-timed short, right? And that's multiplied by the leverage. So at 5x, that's 200%. At 25x, that's a massive exponential gain. So that's why I've been trading at 25x leverage. So it's really good to know where the chart is headed, where the fib levels are, and to keep track of the divergences when doing this. This is like hardcore day trading on a super volatile asset. That's 24/7. There's not even a market close. It's not like being in a stock market where, okay, guys, it's after hours, we can go have a beer, relax, the market's going to open at 8 a.m. the next day. This is not like that. This is, I will be looking at the ETC Bitmex play, absolutely. You guys have any other questions for me? I did post a new set of indicators that I'm using to go into these long shorts. They're actually on this chart. I'll probably do a workshop just on those indicators because they're pretty awesome. Like what this one allows us to do is we notice whenever the actual chart dips below this moving average, it would be a good time to open a short. We've also got confluence from this other indicator. This is a live public video, right? I do have these indicators posted under our trading library in Discord, so if you want to look up the names of these indicators and start messing around with them and just kind of back testing before you really dive in and try to Bitmex testnet or real Bitmex, it would be a really good idea to study these indicators and interact. And they'll actually change on various time frames, but what they're gonna allow me to do is to really gauge the strength of a long and a short based on various time frames. These are built into Coinigy. So if you go into our Discord and the trading library, it's gonna have the abbreviations for them. I'm just saying that, guys. So it's in our Discord. Go to the trading library. It's the very last post in there. And if you pull up just the abbreviation and drop it into your indicator right there, it'll put that up on your chart. And they're not, they're not a cheat code. They're not, no indicator is 100% foolproof or, low risk. And I really like to combine them. If you guys have noticed, all my charts have had both stochastic and regular RSI, because I want to see how they're both acting to see which one is going to be more of a confirmation as opposed to jumping the gun and thinking, oh, it's going to do X, and then it ends up doing something different. Cody, Keith, any other questions, guys? Anybody else have any questions? What are other coins we can long and short? Well, let's go there. They've got Bitcoin on the yen. Right. This is actually, I think, just testnet. ADA, Bcash, Dash, Ether, Ether Classic, Litecoin, Neo, Monero, Ripple. I think this is just testnet, and then Stellar. They're all futures, but all these futures can be settled at any time. They're also like a XBT perpetual swap. So that Ether Classic 7-day future, I can close out today. Where would you set OX long or short? That is going to be in the trade panel. If I wanted to open a long or a short, it would be either a market order sell short or limit order sell short, and this is the leverage. Does that answer your question, Elite Billionaire? Cody, once again, those indicators, I've got the abbreviations for them in the Discord. Alright, guys, I'll take like 4 more questions. Hit me up with 4 more questions, and we'll wrap this Bitmex long short testnet workshop for educational purposes only workshop. More questions, guys. If no more questions, we can end the workshop now. Just let me know. So Derek, typically on the BTC or XBT chart, I have my moving averages. I actually use two moving averages. I use the 9 and the 30. And I use a stochastic and a regular RSI. And then whenever I want to follow up with it, one thing I noticed that XBT chart and BTC Bitfinex chart might be showing two different things. So on one monitor, I have my XBT chart with those two indicators. On another monitor, I'll go like do a BTC US, right? And on Bitfinex, and I'll have this set of indicators. And then I'll also back check my findings on various time frames. So if I think I see divergence on XBT, I'll go on to the Bitfinex chart and confirm it there. Or if I'm seeing something weird on XBT, I'll go to the Bitfinex chart and try to get a better understanding of what's happening. It's good to have like a cross-reference, especially on a high-risk, high-reward situation. Donata. Two more questions, guys. Cody, Derek, anybody else? Awesome. Well, guys, thank you all for tuning into this Bitmex long short testnet workshop. I recommend getting on the testnet and messing around and really getting familiar with the platform. I'd also recommend on testnet to place long shorts, because there's actually no risk messing around with testnet, and there's no gain either. But it's a good way to practice before diving into a long short margin trading situation. Alright, once again, thank you guys for tuning in. I'll be on Discord, and I will catch you guys there.